Expected family contribution. How much the family is expected to provide in support for the student's education over the course of a year. It is tied to the student and that student's family's financial wherewithal as calculated by the federal government, and so stays the same regardless of which school the student attends. The EFC is the same whether the student attends Hendrix College or they attend Pulaski Technical College. It doesn't matter. The EFC is the same. And again, this is a number that is calculated based on the free application for federal student aid, and it comes back, and it's not meant to be, this is how much money you have to, the student has to pay up front at the beginning of the year. It's how much they can afford to spend over the course of the academic year, which is approximately 9 to 10 months. There are two parts to that contribution, a parent contribution and a student contribution. Now, if the student is determined to be independent, then it is the parent, there's no parent contribution, but it is a student and spouse contribution if the student happens to be married. It's calculated based on the data the student provides on the free application for federal student aid and a formula that is specified in the law. It's the Higher Education Act of 1965 as amended by Congress, and the specifics of how to calculate that formula are in the law. All right. Expected family contribution, parent and student contribution. And basically the way this works is they take all the information on the FAFSA and they say, okay, what's the parent's income, both taxed and untaxed income. Then they subtract some allowances such as what did you pay in federal taxes, what did you pay in state and local taxes, what did you pay in Social Security taxes, offsets in case there's a two-worker family and there's child care involved, possibly child care involved, and some other expenses and allowances, and determine what basically the effective amount of money the family can afford to pay. And then they look at assets, cash, savings, checking, and net worth of investments and farm. Now that farm, if the family lives on the farm and that's their primary residence, then they do not look at that. That's part of their primary residence. But it's net worth of business, so it's how much is it worth minus what do you owe. And again, it's offset by allowances such as the asset protection allowance, which basically offsets assets and says, okay, the older the oldest parent is, the closer they are to retirement, so we're going to expect them to pay less, use less of that for their education because they need to save for retirement. The family's primary residence is not included as an asset. Certain retirement accounts like IRAs and 401s are not counted in there. And basically it's straightforward. The instructions are on the FAFSA on the web. And then once those calculations are done, once on the parents, once on the student and spouse. Well, if they're dependent student, it's parent, and then it's the student. If they're independent, it's student and spouse. If there is a spouse, and then it comes up with the expected family contribution. And while we may disagree with some of the tables and the formulas and the way they put it all together, every student who fills out the FAFSA gets treated in an identical manner. That formula is applied the same way to every student. There are different variations on that formula depending on whether they're dependent or independent, and whether they're independent and whether they have dependents other than a spouse or not, but all those in each category are treated the same. FAFSA Forecaster. This is a website and a process developed by the U.S. Department of Education to help students who are in high school or earlier, but prior to their senior year, so they won't be applying this year. This is an opportunity to find out about how much they will qualify for in aid, mostly need-based aid, based on their current financial circumstances. So it's important to understand that if a student, as an 11th grader, completes the FAFSA forecaster and it says you're eligible for this, that, and that, and the next year one of the parents gets a pay raise, a 50% pay raise, that's all going to change. In the same manner, if somebody loses a job, that could also change the other direction. And basic reason is, how are students going to pay for college? So this helps them make some of those decisions before May of their senior year. And so they can make those decisions, make those determinations, and be prepared. And it also will help them say, okay, we as a family can only afford this, we'll get this much aid, so you can't, unfortunately, you will not be able to go to Hendrix College because we just can't afford to make it. And so it aids them in the planning process. It provides an expected family contribution. So students will have that and compare that to a cost of attendance and go, okay, this is how much need and how much I may need and how much I'm going to have to look for in federal aid or scholarships or grants. And also it saves the data, and so that when a student comes back and to complete the FAFSA for real, some of that data is already there and it's pre-populated. They will always have the opportunity to update things such as address and other data, but it's pre-populated. So it will save a little time. The latest data as of actually last fall is that it takes average of about 23 minutes to complete the FAFSA on the web, which is actually very good. It keeps coming down because the federal government is making a large number of improvements to that program. And once a student's done with the FAFSA forecaster, they get a screen similar to this. Now, it's important to understand that a lot of these are estimates. They're based on the information the student and parent provide, so that they could vary. There are estimates of and some of those estimates on costs are going to vary. Also, if money isn't budgeted, if Pell Grant maximums are changed, those numbers could change, just as they could change if the numbers that went into the FAFSA forecaster changed in terms of the student's financial situation. PINs. That is the student's and parents' electronic signature for FAFSA on the web. Students can get a PIN anytime. Parents can get a PIN anytime. It's important for dependent students to know that they will have to sign the FAFSA, and at least one parent will have to sign the FAFSA. They do so by using a PIN. It's a 4-digit number, just like your ATM PIN. You go to the PIN website, provide the information. It runs it through a Social Security Administration check to verify that name and date of birth and Social Security number are all matched. They appear to be the same person. They send you a PIN. You can get it electronically within a couple of days, or you can take about 2 weeks to get the little, if you prefer to have the little mailer, just like ATMs do. But this is your electronic signature. And this means that when a student completes the FAFSA and both the student and the parent provide the PIN, it gets processed. The student can have the results in 4 to 5 days. The school, depending on the time of the year, sometimes it's faster. The school will have the results electronically within that same time period. And if you live in Arkansas and indicate you're an Arkansas resident, the Department of Higher Education will receive that within that same time period. If you choose to sign on paper, you will have to send in the form and it will have to be processed. And that could take 2 to 3 weeks or longer. So, and the PIN does not change. The PIN I received a number of years ago, about 15 years ago, has not changed. It is still the same. And if you forget the PIN or lose it, you can go back to the website, tell them you've lost it, and they will verify the information and send you your PIN. FAFSA on the web. This is the starting screen. It's at fafsa.ed.gov. It's the start of the free application for federal student aid. It may seem daunting, it may seem very complicated, but if the student and the parent will sit down together and go through it and read the instructions and follow the instructions, it will not be that bad. They also have the opportunity, if they reach a point where they say, I have to stop and do something, they can save the information, get a password, and come back within a period of time, I don't remember whether it's 45 or 90 days, and log back in and continue. Now, what's important to remember is that they do not save that password. They do not know that password. So if you lose that password, you cannot retrieve it. You will have to start over again. So, as a general rule, it is very important that students understand that email, passwords, the internet are very important, a major player in financial aid. So when you set up an account, write down the username and password. I would recommend that students use the same email address for all college and financial aid work. Save every email they get so they can go back and refer to it. Check their spam or junk mail folder to make sure that nothing's in there. Maybe set their filter so that it will accept certain website certain domain names. So, apply for FAFSA on the web. This is about the second page after that. The one thing I want to point out is with the red arrow. You can start, because years overlap. The FAFSA becomes available January 1st for the following academic year, and applications can be applied for through June 30th of the next calendar year. So the 2012-13 year, students started applying January 1st of 2012. The deadline is June 30th of 2013. So there is an overlap in years. So at this point in time, a student in January could have gone in and applied for either 12-13 or still could have applied for 11-12. So it's important that students make sure that they use the right year. FAFSA tips. The Department of Higher Education receives FAFSAs electronically for every student who says, I'm an Arkansas resident. Now, it's important to understand that that is not where they say AR on their mailing address. There's a question that says, what state are you a permanent resident of? And they have to place Arkansas, they have to specify Arkansas there. We receive every FAFSA for which they answer Arkansas. There are many students, there are a number of students who may live in Texas or Louisiana and attend an Arkansas school, may want to come to school in Arkansas, but they actually are Arkansas residents. If they have questions or concerns, they feel free to contact the Department of Higher Education, and we'll talk to them about what the requirements are for our scholarships, because all of our scholarships require that the student or a parent, depending on the age of the student, be an Arkansas resident. And students who are not Arkansas residents but who have one parent who is an Arkansas resident can qualify in those cases. There are some age limitations, so contact the Department of Higher Education. Remember, it can take up to 5 business days for us to get the FAFSA. So if you submit it tonight, please do not call us tomorrow and say, have you got my FAFSA? Because we don't. We could have it in 2 days, we could have it next week. It just depends on the volume and how fast it's processing. And we retrieve based on the Social Security number in the student's account. We receive the FAFSA, but we match them. If the Social Security number is incorrect on the FAFSA or the Social Security number is incorrect in our account, we will never match them. So that's why it's important when entering the Social Security number, when applying both for the FAFSA and for ADHE programs, the student makes sure they get the right Social Security number in there. The FAFSA will actually, if the Social Security number doesn't match, we'll send them a little notice and say, your Social Security number doesn't match your name, the name and date of birth with the Social Security Administration, you need to go fix it. So that's the first warning. Many cases it's right there, but it's wrong in our account, which we can correct with the proper documentation. In fact, if we have the FAFSA and we can verify on the FAFSA that they met the Social Security number match, we can use that as a source document to change the Social Security number and update it in the student's account. But one of the other keys will be, if it's wrong in our account, we probably will not be able to pull their high school transcript if in that case. That's a clue that there may be a problem with that.